Welcome back to The First TV, our coverage of Donald Trump being booked in Miami. 37 charges, could face up to 400 years in prison. First president ever to be charged on federal charges. He, of course, pleaded not guilty, and there is no mugshot that we are going to see today. I want to play a clip here from Jack Smith. He's the special counsel investigator who, as we'll talk about a little later in the show, is incredibly biased himself and especially his wife. But here he is the other day.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. Applying those laws, collecting facts, that's what determines the outcome of an investigation. Nothing more and nothing less. It's very important for me to note that the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. To that end, my office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused.
Yeah, right. Liz Harrington is here. She is Donald Trump's spokesperson. Liz, how are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm grateful you're here on this busy day, to say the least. Will Donald Trump ever stop running for president?
Absolutely not, Mike. I mean, this is so important. This demonstrates today, this very dark day, it's really not about President Trump, it's about this country. And he has to run to fix this once great nation that has now descended into just another third world banana republic. I mean, Jack Smith belongs in the days of the Soviet Union when they were running the show trials. He'd be a better fit over there in Venezuela or Cuba. I mean, this is absolutely a travesty. He can get up there and pretend that there's one set of laws for everyone, but we know that's not the case. They have ignored the law when it comes to Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. You go down the list. President Trump, on the other hand, has done nothing wrong. He has not violated any laws, and yet they get a general warrant to do an unprecedented illegal raid on Mar-a-Lago, and now they're trying to imprison not just the former president, but the leading candidate in all the polls and the leader of the greatest political movement in American history. They're trying to put him in jail for the rest of his life on trumped up sham charges that have no legal basis. So to answer your question, there's no chance that President Trump will ever stop running because he has to run. We have to fix this mess.
I was talking to Senator Marsha Blackburn this morning about classified documents and how they ever even get out of the SCIF room. So if you're a senator, you got to go to the special room and you can't take stuff out of the room. Now there's different protocol for the president or whatever, but the idea that classified documents could ever get stuffed into a box by some staffer or something and get out of the White House is very bizarre to me. So how did he get classified documents even in these boxes that made it to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, let's use the language actually of the sham indictment. They're not talking about classified documents. They're talking about documents with classification markings. So they're even admitting that these aren't classified.
Well, what does that mean? What's that difference?
That means that it's just a paper with a marking on it. They don't know if it's classified or declassified. So it means that they have no basis for this sham because you're talking about the Espionage Act. President Trump is not subject to that. What supersedes that is the Presidential Records Act. So how do these documents get to be presidential records? Well, you have to be president. And President Trump was president. And Hillary Clinton was never president. Joe Biden was not president when he was stealing documents out of a SCIF, as you note. That's the only way he could have gotten them while he was a senator. And he's got 1,850 boxes worth of documents, and who knows how far they go back. So President Trump, these are personal and presidential records. He had every right to have them. And this is really a weaponization, a really distortion and a perversion of the rule of law. It's all about getting Trump. It's not about justice. It's trying to entrap him and entangle him and try to get him to misstep or something. And he's done nothing wrong. This is a very routine dispute with the National Archives that Bill Clinton had himself. And he was hiding classified audio tapes in his sock drawer. And yet the court system said that those were personal records. They were his records. It was his discretion.
In the indictment, they claim Trump told the individual that the plan, and we talked in great detail about what this plan was, rebuking Mark Milley and the claim that he wanted to invade Iran, blah, blah. He said this plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret. What does that mean?
This is using the words of a one-sided indictment of the same Justice Department that illegally spied on President Trump, tried to frame him for Russia when they knew it was Hillary Clinton. So I would really take this, the words of that, what you're quoting, with a grain of salt. What I know is President Trump has every right, because he was the president, to possess presidential records. And he was in negotiations with the National Archives, which is very routine, which has, the Presidential Records Act has no criminal ramifications. It's all civil. If there's a dispute with the archives, which clearly there was, but President Trump wasn't aware because he was negotiating with them. They secretly send a notice over to the Biden White House, who rubber stamps this sham investigation to get it underway, to interfere in the election, to get rid of their number one political opponent, because they know they can't win fair and square at the ballot box. So all of what you're hearing and seeing, and what they've been illegally leaking, by the way, is fruit off a poisonous tree that, once again, President Trump will be vindicated, just like he has every time this corrupt Justice Department has gone after him the last 7 years.
So what was in all these boxes?
Mike, I mean, there's lots of different things that are in boxes. I mean, can you imagine how much stuff to this day gets sent to Mar-a-Lago of people from all across this country, send, photographs and memorabilia and everything else, newspaper clippings. I mean, it's so absurd, this idea. I mean, why don't we have a raid of the warehouse across from the Chinese restaurant where Barack Obama had, all these classified and unclassified documents from his presidency? It's just preposterous. And if you had an equal justice, they could go, this is clearly not equal justice, but if they wanted to, they could have gone after Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George Bush. They could have made something sound very nefarious when actually it's very routine. It's very normal. They just never wanted to accept that President Trump won the presidency fair and square. They've never gotten over it. And they're hell-bent on stopping it from happening again, because he returns power to the people and he ends this corrupt system once and for all.
On this point of spinning to make everything look bad, what do you say, Liz, to the people who say, look at him, he's storing these boxes on the ballroom stage, he's storing them in a bathroom, look how reckless he can be with these documents? Why would he do that?
Well, if they're saying that, they've clearly never been to Mar-a-Lago. They couldn't get into Mar-a-Lago. It's one of the most secure places on the planet. The Secret Service is everywhere. You can't get in unless you're a paying member of the club, but that, even still, you don't get access to just anywhere in this private property. He had a presidential office because he was a former president, which gave him the means to secure everything that he had. I mean, it's just so ridiculous that we're even going down this road. And I'd love to see, the propaganda photos of Hillary Clinton's bathroom server, which, by the way, she was never president. She could not have a private email and classified records on them. And she got a congressional subpoena and used BleachBit to delete 33,000 emails. And it's a completely different even scenario, because what President Trump did, he had every right and entitlement to do under the law, because he was president of the United States. And yet Hillary Clinton can get away with murder, and they do nothing about it. Why? Because she's owned. She's a member of the corrupt political class who will do anything that she's told to do to continue the demise of our country. It's very sad, but the people see through it, and that's why President Trump, no matter what they throw at him, how many baseless and disgusting sham indictments, he's going to persevere, because the American people see the truth for what this is, and they want to save this country, and they want to make America great again.
Wow. The walls are finally closing in, Liz. So eventually, one of these days, they'll close in, right? So it is very clearly that this is a political attack on it. Even if one wants to come to the opinion right now that he was reckless with documents or whatever, clearly the charges against him and not against everyone else is political in nature, and you cannot deny that. And the point is to drag it all through the mud and throw everything they can at him and all the rest. And also to create this illusion of chaos, that everything in his life is in chaos and everything in his campaign is in chaos, including headlines like this, Rolling Stone, inside the implosion of Trump's Mar-a-Lago legal team. I see many headlines on that point that Trump can't even find lawyers to defend him, of course, creating this perception that he's indefensible. Does he have any lawyers?
Of course he has lawyers. The sad thing is what's been imploded is attorney-client privilege. I mean, look at what they did in the D.C. court system, which, by the way, they so corruptly handled this investigation with very biased Obama-appointed judge presiding over it, who completely dismantled President Trump's Fifth Amendment rights and broke attorney-client privilege in order to get this sham indictment. And then what do? They take all of that evidence, so-called evidence, it's not even anything bad in there, but they take that and move it to Florida for this sham case. It's really despicable. So no, President Trump has a great legal team. What's really sad and what's really disturbing is how this corrupt Justice Department is trying to totally shred the Constitution and the right to due process and the right to have attorney-client privilege, which we know, hearing from one of President Trump's other former attorneys, Tim Parlatore, he sat in the grand jury room and watched Jack Smith's prosecutors be ethically compromised and try to pierce attorney-client privilege in front of the grand jury. I mean, it's just so unethical. We also know what they did with the witness tampering and offering, putting up a judgeship of one of the witnesses' attorneys. He had this pending judgeship, and they brought it up in the context of trying to, quote unquote, get this witness to flip, even though, once again, there's nothing to flip on. When they want you to flip on Trump, what they're really asking you to do is lie about President Trump because he did nothing wrong. But the amount of ethical problems and corruption with this team is just despicable. And President Trump, he has a great legal team, and we have the rule of law win the day, because this cannot continue. They put in a corrupt court system and they stack the deck against you. And yet when you actually get a fair hearing, it all falls apart, just like 8-0. Jack Smith lost unanimously before the Supreme Court when he tried to prosecute a political opponent in the past. This will fall apart, just like every one of the other one has. I have no doubt about that one. Liz Harrington, Donald Trump spokesperson. Thank you, Liz, for your time. Let's talk again. Great to see you. Darren Beatty is coming up next. We'll talk about this because we're talking about this trial, but they're not done with him after this. There's Georgia still. There's charges in D.C. about January 6th that he's facing as well. They are trying to bog him down and throw everything they possibly can at him. Darren Beatty, next, right here on The First.
For too long, we've been led to believe that communism is a thing of the past. But the truth is, communism is alive. It's here, and it's infiltrating every aspect of American life. Introducing the Anti-Communist Manifesto by Jesse Kelly, the practical guide for patriots ready to defend our nation from its most dangerous enemy. Discover the shocking extent of communist infiltration in our education system, their alliance with American corporations, and the twisted truth behind environmentalism. This eye-opening book exposes the true face of communism and empowers you to fight back. Join the fight for freedom. Pre-order your copy of the Anti-Communist Manifesto today by going to jessekellybook.com.